All right, welcome back to Cricket for Americans. Nick here, and I am excited to watch some Australia India. This is the last test. This is the second to last session of this last test. And right now, the score is Australia's second innings 78 for one loss. They trail India by 13 runs, so they're going to definitely catch up and surpass India's score within a few overs. It would be quite magical, right, if India is able to get 9 wickets in under what 13 runs. What's up, Minitium? Good to see you in the chat here. Thanks for joining me as I just started here. And I got some fantastic news. I'm sure all of you know the news. I'm going to get to it as soon as we get a few more in the chat. What's up, Kush? What's up, CJ? How are you guys doing? I was stressing about this series for one main reason, and stress no more. I mean, Australia win this match, which is going to be impossible. Win this match. I know I'm going to get to that in just a second. I want to wait till at least we pass, into double digits here. But man alive, what fantastic news. And thank you so much to one particular team. Those of us who are rooting for India, we do appreciate you oh so much. And I appreciate everyone joining me right now. How's your day going? I just lost audio, so let's see what's going on here. It says I'm connected. Let me switch some headphones here. Let me know in the chat. How you doing? Let me know if you watched that match that I will not mention yet for dramatic effect. Let me know if you watched it. I know I should have been watching it. I could not get on any earlier than now. Sunday is obviously my church day, but it's also the day that I edit all the videos for the week. It takes me about 5, 6, 7 hours to edit the weekly videos. And that's not even getting to the thumbnails yet. So I just finished for the week. And I'm excited to watch some of this before I go to bed. I have no work tomorrow. It's spring break this next week. I don't know what's going on either with this match. His feet are definitely down. This is not a stump. Was this a third umpire review? TV umpire. Okay. And it's definitely going to be not out. And they tell us it's not out. 14 in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Really, really appreciate seeing you all. And I'm super excited because in case you haven't heard it, and you're watching this in the replay, in case you haven't heard it, these two teams we see right now will have a date at the WTC final, baby. Sri Lanka lost not a stunner, but a crazy match. New Zealand won by 2 wickets. I mean, it went down the wire. New Zealand had only 2 wickets left to go. I said they won by 2 wickets. That's right. They had lost 8 wickets. They were trailing. They were trying to chase Sri Lanka. And they were able to do it with 2 wickets in hand in the second innings. That's right. 5-day test match. And because of that, they have sent India to the WTC final to face this Australia squad. And after the first 2 tests, as an India fan, you're like, bring on Australia. We got them. Last 2 test match, Australia does what Australia does. They adapt very well, like they did in the Pakistan series. They highlighted in the season 2 of the test. They adapted very well. And these last 2 matches have been crazy. Australia won outright that third match. And it's going to be a draw in this match right here. But, I mean, hey, we'll get there in a second, Tim. We'll get there in a second. But let's celebrate this right now. We know who's going to WTC. India's going to back-to-back WTC finals for the first 2 ever. Australia's going to be there in their first one. And I couldn't be more excited about it. That was the whole weight that this series had brought, was that kind of weight. Can India get themselves that WTC final? Can they get that late push? And they did just enough. Just enough. Yeah, absolutely unlikely we get a result here. I know. Honestly, I didn't know that that series had already started today. I'm not gonna lie. And as I'm getting ready to come on here, I get the notification on my other phone telling me that India's in the WTC final, and I'm super excited. What's going on? Super excited. Yeah, you have no idea. Yeah, right. I'm super excited about it. Yeah, Jack, let's get you in here. I don't know how long I'm going to stay on here. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to catch some of this fourth match. This last week has been crazy as we're gearing up, getting ready for spring break, and just was able to get on. And so I wanted to jump on here. I wanted to hang out with CFA Nation. I wanted to watch some of this match. And so here I am. I don't even know if I'm going to last the whole session. It's midnight here. We'll see how much energy I have going on, but I'm going to be on here for at least an hour, if not the whole session. And I'm excited to hang out with you. So go ahead and sit back, get yourself your favorite beverage, get yourself this or that. I'm watching on ESPN Plus here in the States. Not sure about the rest of the world. The unspeakable match. The unspeakable match. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Honestly, I've been bored of cricket lately. It's a worry. I can see that. If you're not a fan of the big 3 to 4 teams in the world, it's going to be hard to keep up. But have no fear. Have no fear. Cricket is still as fantastic as ever. There's a nice boundary right there by Travis Head. He's going to get his 50. This guy is an amazing batter. Absolutely amazing batter. He's with LIVESTREAM, who's got 29. But Head, he's the guy that India cannot get out. Cannot get out. I don't know what's going on with this track either. This has been like high scoring track that you would not believe. But Travis Head and the mustache is here to stay. He's a stud. Nick, your prediction for the upcoming India versus Aussie ODI series? It's a 3-match series. If you've been watching and listening to me for any amount of time, you know that ODI, besides the World Cup, it's not really my bag as far as cricket goes. I enjoy it. I'll sit back and watch. I do like getting a result each day. But to sit there and watch the entire thing, it's hard for me to get excited for it. And again, the crazy thing about the WTC is only 2 teams get to that final. There's no tournament. I mean, there is a tournament. It's the year and a half, 18-month tournament, but there's no tournament. The best 2 teams ranked, they go on, they face each other in 1 match. We got to get better than that 1 match nonsense. But with the ODI World Cup, a lot of teams are invited. You just got to qualify. So the ODI series doesn't have a lot of weight to it. It'll still be great cricket. Be some great white ball cricket players that we'll be able to see. But I'm not as excited. My prediction is India will win 2 out of the 3. That's a very safe position. But you got to give credit to Australia here. Australia, who hasn't won a series in India in who knows how long. India loses their first test match at home in so long, right? How many series? 20-plus series or some nonsense. And Australia came in. They won the 3rd match outright. And they're going to draw this match right here. Very impressive. It's going to be very difficult. And yes, Minutinium, yes, there's no part of me that is expecting a win. No hate. Look at that. Look at that Action Comics right there. That Superman Action Comics #1. No, it's not an official #1. It's a reprint. But still, how awesome is that? That was a gift from Gabe a few years back. No Oscar talk. I have yet to watch it. I'll watch it later. Not that it really matters. This is all you're going to spoil me with, and that's great. I had no idea. I was hoping that they win. I mean, how would not to win, for crying out loud? But yes, gotta have some onboard interviews, right? Great point. But I am an Oscar geek, so please try your best not to spoil anything for me. But how's everyone doing? We got Phil in here. We got Siddhartha going on in here. We got Miniteam CJ, Marvel Geek. Love that name. John, how you doing? Good day. We got Abhishek. We got Supan, excuse me. Darshan, what's up, man? And just Joshua. Yes, Coley with the 180-plus score. But, Australia, they had Uzi with the 180 score. They had Cameron Green get himself a century. And Travis Head looks like he's on his way to a century here. Ashwin's got other plans. He's got 1 more ball left here in the 43rd over. This track is so batting friendly that even Coley scored one. Oh, come on, man. How dare you? That's pretty funny. But how dare you? And it's a dot ball in the final ball, the 43rd over by Ashwin. 89 for 1. Australia trails by 2 runs. 2 runs here. Let's get my man Jack set up here. Get him an invite. Once again, I hope everyone's having a great day today. No matter what time it is. My day literally just started 9 minutes ago as far as the time goes. But I hope everyone's having a great day, had a great night, had a great weekend, is ready for the upcoming week. And even if you're not as lucky as I am with the spring break looming, I hope you have a fantastic week. Take the week off, for crying out loud. Why not? Take the week off. You deserved it. All right, Jack, link has been sent. Appreciate you. You're going to be on call with me here because, again, I don't know how long I'm going to last. No, sorry at all. No sorry at all. That's great news. That's fantastic news. It would have been cool to know that from the first, but I understand your excitement. That is fantastic. So awesome. I appreciate that. Yes, Marvel Geek. I did know that. I absolutely did. I've heard that before. Appreciate you making sure I was aware. But yes, I was aware of that. It's a great question, Phil. What is ooh, nice bat on ball there to prevent the LBW. Makes it into a boundary. Lavishane. Very, very nice. What's everyone's prediction for the Ashes? Honestly, I think it's going to be extremely close. How could you not make that prediction? Speaking of the Ashes, let's get Aussie Friendly in here. Okay. He's the closet England fan. Okay. What's up, Jack? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Nick. Yourself?
I am living the dream, my friend. I'm super excited that India qualified for another World Cup that they're going to lose.
Yes. It was a really tight match in the end. I was watching a bit of that test match, and geez, Sri Lanka nearly pulled it off. But, India have been good over the cycle, and Australia as well. So sets up a very good final come June the 6th at the Oval.
Yeah. Honestly, if I was a wiser man, I would have known about that New Zealand Sri Lanka match. I wouldn't be able to stream it, unfortunately, but that would have been fun to watch for sure. I was watching. There's I'm not sure if you're aware of this, the WBC, the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, I did see something on the news about that Australia were playing in that.
Yes, exactly. In Australia, they were undefeated, and they played the juggernaut Japan. And Japan's just, they're just too good right now. But Australia's still in it. And so the WBC is going on right now. And I was watching USA getting their butts kicked by Mexico. Absolutely got thrashed by Mexico. And it's basically, I think it's a 4 or is it 5? I think it's 4 games you play. And the top 2 teams move on. And they have all these tiebreakers. If every team has 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4 wins or whatever, it's by runs, all this kind of stuff. Anyways, that's what I was watching while the Sri Lanka match was going on. USA got killed.
Yeah. Well, I'm very happy that Australia are on track to draw this test match after being in a dominant position, but this pitch just hasn't really broken up. It's like a block of concrete.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you're an Australia fan, you're super excited about this match, the way it starts off. They bat for 2 days practically, right? I'm not sure how they timed that perfectly.
Yes, we did.
2 days, it seemed like. And then you're like, okay, as an India fan, you wanted that win. You're like, okay, this is not going to happen. Now let's just survive. Are we going to be able to score 500 runs or so? And they were. They were able to put 571, which I was impressed to see that, especially with one of your batters being retired hurt. And there's Australia. They have the lead now by 6 runs with that boundary off the bat of Travis Head. They're in the lead by 6 runs right now off of Ashwin. But they didn't have Shreyas Iyer. He retired hurt. But they were still able to get to that 5, almost 600 run total, which was great. The problem is you only get to play 5 days in tests, no 10-day test match. So it equals to a draw. It'd be interesting if they just let them go more days to see who would come out on top. it would probably be an 8 or 9 day match.
Yeah. It sort of reminded me of watching Australia and Pakistan on those pitches. It was like watching paint dry when Australia were playing that series last year. But to win a test over there was quite an achievement on those pitches. But yeah, this one just hasn't really broken up. And if Australia go wicketless in this session, then that will quiet India a bit in terms of them believing they can do something. But it's sort of heading towards that direction right
wicket
now.
off the night watchman and all that kind of stuff, but they haven't been able to do anything since. They haven't been able to crack through. And it's kind of funny with how all the talk of the doctored pitches and how this one is just not wicket friendly whatsoever.
Well, the last pitch was full on, but Australia to win that last test was a great achievement on that difficult surface. To pull that off was a pretty good win.
That's why they currently
nice shot there from Travis Head. He just hits that back over the bowler's head for 6, and Ashwin getting some treatment. This is what Travis Head can do. He's a good player, and that was a wonderful shot through the line. 73 meters at 6, geez. And he had a couple of sixes in his innings. That's what he can do. Travis.
Impressive. We have a few questions here. I want to get to this baseball one. Then we're going to get to one for Jack next. It says, "Hey Nick, if cricket fans like us want to start following baseball, which domestic leagues, international events would be a good place to start watching?" Now, honestly, right now, currently, it's only going to go to, I think, March 21st or 28th. I think 21st. It's a short tournament, the WBC, but it involves 20 different countries, and not just countries on the Western Hemisphere, all over the globe. You got Australia, Israel, you got Japan, you got Chinese Taipei, you got China. I mean, Korea, South Korea. Maybe not South Korea, but you got a Korea team out there. You got Great Britain's out there. And it's kind of funny for anyone that is Australia fan, social media was not kind to the Great Britain jerseys because it's simply just Great Britain in like Arial font, very, very basic, no flash whatsoever. They were kind of getting razzed for that. But you got teams, obviously South America, Central America, North America. So if you want to get into it, it's just like international cricket play. It's international play across the world. It's really, really exciting. And the U.S. had won the last WBC in 2017. That was the first time they won it. So it kind of gave us like a little breath of fresh air because it's a sport that we created and we couldn't win a WBC since it started in, I think, the early 2000s. And so I would recommend start watching that wherever you can find it. I'm not sure where. And if you don't get time for that, the Major League Baseball season is starting. And all these players from all across the world, they play in the Major League Baseball. Yes, it's an American league, but it's like the IPL where you have overseas players, if you will. And there's no cap on how many overseas players. It's not a league that's dominated by just Americans, believe it or not. You have it's very, very, it's like a melting pot. You got a whole lot of different players from different countries, different backgrounds playing. And even though it's a U.S. domestic league, it is worldwide in that sense of the players go. So I'd recommend watching that if you get access to Major League Baseball and just, pick a team to root for or just watch a game and pick a team that day to root for. You can't go wrong. But as far as the question for Jack goes, this question kind of confuses me because Silver Raul, he knows his stuff, but this seems like forgive me, Silver Raul, like a silly question. So help me out, Jack. What would be the strategy for Australia declaring?
They won't gain anything because when India went past Australia's total, that put Australia's chances of winning this test match out of the question. Only India could win this test match now or a draw. So Australia would just bat the whole day. Runs are irrelevant. They're not going to win this test because they won't have time to bowl India out and get the 10 wickets. So they'll just bat. They'll bat time. If they go through this session wicketless, then pretty much it's a done deal that this test match will be a draw and a 2-1 result will be in favour of India at the end of the day. But that's the plan for Australia, just to bat the day. They can't gain anything. And it's just how the surface is played, really, which was interesting after the last test to see what sort of pitch they would prepare for this test match. Apparently, they prepared several surfaces on this square in Ahmedabad, and they chose this one, and it's a batting paradise. 4 centurions, and finally Virat Kohli broke the drought. But it was a very good knock from King Curly. And well-deserved. You can't keep a good player down for long. And it was just a matter of time before he turned that corner.
And obviously, it's not his first century in a long time, but definitely in India against a great team like Australia. He's had, what is the count now in 2023? He's had, I would say, 2 or 3, maybe 4 centuries so far already, when you're talking about white ball and red ball. So it's, for a guy that was in a drought of a very long time for his standards, it's nice to see that all those monkeys are off his back, so to speak. We appreciate everyone joining us here in the chat. I appreciate Jack joining me. We are going to talk about this series as this is an end. Not going to say that Gabe and I will not do a recap. We probably will, but you just never know. But we're going to talk about the series a little bit during this session. And we know it's, if you had $100 to your name, it's pretty safe you bet that on a draw right now. There's no way anything else is going to happen. That would just be crazy. Australia would have to go 36 all out the rest of the way through, and then India would have a really good chance at that point. Yeah. The real question is how many wickets are going to fall. I would say maybe 3 more wickets for the day, just the way things are going.
They could be 1 down by the end of the day. It looks like it, because on this pitch, you take a wicket and then it comes. You don't get clumps of wickets, so you get 1 wicket in a session, maybe 2, maybe 3. That's it. Nothing more than that. And some sessions have gone wicketless. So that's the case in this test match. And both teams have batted well, but it's an absolute road. And,
what a contrast, too, because Australia in the first 2 matches, there was twice where they got bowled out in an inning, in a session.
Yes.
And it's quite impressive. And I know people like to talk about pitches. They like to talk about field grounds. They like to talk about stadiums. But I guess I'm just not so much in the minutia of cricket to worry about that. I look at it as overall, it's a match, right? Someone had a comment about, well, of course Kohli got a century on this ground. Well, does that mean we're going to take away Uzi's achievement or Cameron Green's achievement? I wouldn't. A century is a century no matter where you're at. And truth be told, there was 9 guys, yes, I'm counting the tail enders, on both sides that didn't get a century on this easy to get a century ground. So I don't like to take anything away from anyone. Australia was bowled out twice in a session in the first 2 matches. It was, the sky was falling in Australia. And then they do what they do, right? And quite impressive enough, too. I wonder, maybe you can let me know, what is the media outlet saying about this under the on-the-spot captaincy of a Steve Smith, right? And you got to give him a whole lot of credit to be able to rally up the troops, to be able to see the pitch that they're going to go on day 3, to see the field, the grounds they're going to play at, and how can we get a win? And boy, did they get a win in that 3rd match. And here they're going to draw it. So, you kind of forget about the first 2 matches, and since then they're looking undefeated, right, with a draw there. So, what do you think? What is the media in Australia saying about Steve Smith and about this Australia's resurgence here in India?
Pretty positive with Smith's captaincy, especially in the last test. He was proactive. He changed the field. He changed his bowlers around. He didn't let the game meander and drift, which you need to do as a captain. Obviously, a lot of people said he should be the captain, but I think that's a little bit disrespectful to Pat Cummins. And before we proceed, thoughts and prayers with Pat and his family with the passing of his mother recently. Just terrible news. So I think that's a little bit disrespectful towards Pat. He had a tough series in the first 2 tests, and then Smith's come in and filled in, and he's done well. But, after this series, Pat will be captain, and Steve Smith said, I'm not going to be captain full-time. I don't want the job. I'm happy to fill in when I can. And he's done a good job since he's come in the last 2 tests, and it's been well received. Obviously, you're going to get some people that are going to say that he shouldn't be captain because of what happened in Cape Town. But to be honest, that happened 4 years ago now. It's time to move on from that. People make mistakes. He made a big mistake, but he's done okay. So it's been positive in terms of Australia winning that last test and Steve Smith's captaincy. And I think a 2-1 result is not a bad result for Australia. They would have liked 2-2. That would have been a very successful tour. But right. A 2-1 series result is not bad, given the circumstances from the first 2 test matches. It was just like as it was.
They were in a great position to get to a 2-2 result if India wasn't able to put up a good innings themselves there.
Yeah, but Australia, plenty of learnings from this series. As the series has progressed, they've gotten better. You can see that. But in the first 2 Test matches, there were, had key moments. They didn't win those. The Test match in Delhi went pretty downhill quickly. They could have won that Test, but they let that slip. So hindsight's a wonderful thing. If they won those key moments, it would have been a different outcome. But that's the way it played out. But 2-1, not a bad result for Australia. And to get out of this last Test match with a draw, it's a pretty good achievement on what's been a difficult tour at times. But it's good to see some positives from Australia, especially in the last 2 Test matches. It's been much easier.
If you look at it and you take away the home field advantage, you might even say Australia played better in this series. As bad as they were in those first 2 games, they really made up for it. And if you're in a neutral site, right, it could be a different situation. So the WTC should be quite interesting. I did not realize, Jihan, that it was on the final ball once again for New Zealand to be able to pull off that win. They did it in England not too long ago, and now to Sri Lanka. You look at the score, and yes, you see it's I did not realize it was on the final ball. So once again, thank you, New Zealand. New Zealand, who has not been very strong at home, as they just showed the metric there, 42 series at home, 21 wins. So it's a win rate of 50%. They were able to get that match won and send India to the WTC, which India greatly appreciates. No. Sri Lanka lost, Philip. Sri Lanka lost. New Zealand won. So, unfortunately, Sri Lanka is out. But think about that. Sri Lanka being that third team. Wouldn't that have been a story for Sri Lanka to go into the WTC final against Australia and be the second best Test squad in I mean, they are super close in that third spot. Super close.
But I think it was always meant to be Australia and India. They were the better teams throughout the cycle, and England had a late run. If they got their act together at the start of the cycle, could have been them in the final. You never know by the way they're playing at the moment. But that wasn't to be. Anyway, it's Australia and India, and it should be a cracking final at the Oval come June. And let's hope it doesn't rain that time of year in England. You never know in England.
It's going to be insane. And I would love to say, of course, CFA Nation, or we will be streaming every single match. We can't do every single day of it. We're going to try. But we are doing Summer School Game and I, of course. Of course we're going to do that. But it's going to be England time, so I got to do the math. It's going to be early in the morning for us. So really unfortunate times. But, we're going to have to jump on at some point, maybe wake up a little early and get to some of the action. This is going to be fantastic. And as I say that, Travis Head, he's like, I want to get a century. I want to get 2 centuries. How many centuries did he have in this series so far?
None.
Oh, I thought he had one earlier on.
Nope.
So he wants to get 1 century here in India before he packs things up. And we got a super chat here from Dr. Jihan. We appreciate that, as always. I think 2-1 is a fair reflection of the series. They fared better than all other sides in India, whereas 2017 they lost after dominating initially. Here they've saved face after a horrendous start. Yeah, and that echoes the sentiments that Jack and I have been saying. Appreciate the comment there. It's impressive, and I, as someone that roots for India, until USA becomes the best cricket team in the world, I definitely have to still admire Australia for their fight. And it's like Jack said, it's gonna be an epic match. We hope it'll be competitive in the WTC. It's just one match, and let's pray that it goes down to the wire. Let's pray that both sides get their best shot at playing, and the players, the stars show up, and it's just a slugfest to the very, very end. On that note, Dibbly Dobbly, I just read your comment there. Sorry. On that note, Jack, what is next? We got the ODI series, obviously, but what is next for Australia once they leave India before the WTC? What's on there?
This ODI series against India, which will be coming up on Friday, actually. That series doesn't really count towards the World Cup. Both teams have qualified anyway. India's the host nation. Australia's already
I was saying
qualified.
that earlier. What's the point, right? But yeah, let's play the match.
So really, it's just a warm-up series for that. But Australia have selected their squad, and it's about coming up with different combinations in India. First World Cup in India since 2011. So it should be an exciting World Cup later on this year. So that's happening for Australia next after this. But in terms of Test cricket, it will be the WTC final and then the Ashes. And then that's pretty much it in terms of Australia's Test cricket. So they do have a break between this ODI series until the Ashes and WTC final in June, July, August. So, and then you have the IPL there as well. Players that go to the IPL. So not much cricket for Australia after this series against India. So it's been a pretty packed last few months for Australia. Home summer here, and then, getting into this run into the WTC final, which they booked that place in that final in the last game. The Ashes is the pinnacle. Australia will really want to tick that off the list after 2-2 in the last series in 2019. They would like to win the Ashes properly this time around. So that will be the goal for Australia. So that's what's coming up for them, Nick. And they'll be eager to do well and win both WTC and the Ashes. And that will cap off a very good year for Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been very, very successful. And if you have not watched season 2 of the Test, you got to check it out because it's kind of perfect timing for kind of what has culminated to where they're at right now.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Season 2
across the board. Good. Yeah, I just got to finish the last one. Gabe and I record our 3rd episode review, and I'm excited to watch the last episode and talk about it. I wish it was more than just 4 episods, but
they couldn't really film with the India series because of the bio bubbles and that. So that was a shame, but at least you got some sort of episodes from it. And probably my favorite part is Marnus putting his cheese toasty in the freezer. And he likes it cold and congealed. Only Marnus.
He's absolutely out of control.
No, he's a character.
When is the ICC World Cup? ODI World Cup.
I think it's October. October, somewhere in that period. I think I haven't checked the dates, but it's around there.
If that's the case, it's really odd because as far as India cricket, they have the ODI series with Australia, and then IPL season happens. So they don't play again until they see Australia in the WTC. But then they play an ODI series of England in September, end of September. So if the World Cup's in October, I don't know why they would schedule that so close to that with that travel and whatnot. That just seems weird to me.
Yeah, some people are saying in the chat October, November. Yeah, so towards the end of the year, that 50-over World Cup, and it will be the first one in the subcontinent since India won in home in 2011. So they'll be looking to try to compete.
Yeah, get some of that home cooking there. All right, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not done so yet. We got the comments coming in hot and quick. We appreciate that. This is all I wanted coming on. This was my main objective. Just to, have some back and forth. I have been very pleased with Shami, and I don't know if it's just me. Does he not look a little more fit than he usually does? I mean, he's always fit, but he looks a little more chiseled. I don't know. I really like where he's been at, and you might say, how is that possible when he hasn't taken tons and tons of wickets? Well, if you're paying attention, there you go. Speaking of a wicket, put that finger up. Oh, you little cheater.
Nah,
but
not out there.
But he had one innings where he led the spinners in wickets taken. So he's been very, very impressive, and he's been out for a while. But I like what I see from Shami. Yeah, they say he's fitter now.
Yeah, it's been good. No, he's bowled well in this Test match without luck. On a pitch that hasn't really offered much for the bowlers. But it's been good between Head and Marnus. It's a good partnership developing, and that's what Australia needed to do, just to get through that first difficult period. and they look set for a long innings here, and it's going to be a draw. But it's not done yet. Cricket's a funny game, you never know. But I think we're certain that this Test match is going to peter out to a drawn conclusion.
Yes, we absolutely know. And you're right. You're right. This is one of those very few times the umpire was correct on their call. Very few times. Look at Jihan. I'm looking at going to the WTC. Hopefully not too much rain. Jody and I will be in England in June, but unfortunately past that June 7th date and that week. So we'll miss it just barely, though, honestly. Just barely.
Yeah.
If I would have planned it better, can you imagine that? Oh, my goodness.
That would have been good. And you probably got more luck of going to, because I did ask for you, Nick. As you know, I spoke to Neil Robinson from Lords and the MCC for our historical series episode, which was a fun, wonderful chat with Neil. We spoke for over 4 hours on all things the history of Lords and the MCC. So go check out that 5-part series that's out now. The last part was uploaded a couple of days ago on the Ashes, actually. And I did ask for you, Nick. I said, I got a mate from America that wants some tickets to Lords. He's having some trouble, but unfortunately, that was no help. Because it's just, especially for an Ashes test, Nick, it's like a needle in a haystack trying to get tickets because everyone wants.
What kind of connections would he have had?
Well, he's head of heritage and collections, but he could have put a word into the ticketing department maybe. But I tried. But in our chat, for the general public to get tickets, it takes a very long time to get a ticket because of the ballot. But you could become a member, Nick, of MCC, but that will take you 29 years to become a member of the MCC. That's what Neil said to me. So you'll be waiting for a very long time. You'll be like 50 or 60 before you're a member of the MCC.
If I started
29 years, geez, that's.
If I started now, I would be 69, 68 years old.
Yeah, so you're better off going for a tour of the museum. So you're better off doing that.
Our plan right now is just wait for some Yahoo to sell their tickets on a verified site. Not the questionable route, but the kosher route, if you will. And more than likely, someone's going to do that. They got to the ballot. They have no interest in going. They got the tickets for $48, and they're going to sell for $400. There's going to be someone like that, and I'm going to be the big fish that they catch. Absolutely. You heard it here right now. So if you're watching this stream and you got those tickets, I'm going to be the guy buying those tickets, 100%.
Yeah, well, Neil said 29 years to become a member, and people who wanted to become a member 29 years ago are starting to become members now, he said. They're starting to streamline the whole system, he said. Well, we talked about that in our chat. But 29 years, it's a long wait if you're going to do that, Nick. So you're better off.
For this society. This short attention span, that doesn't work for me. Gian says dropping Head for being the highest run scorer in the home summer seems a bit dumb now, does it? Who dropped Travis Head?
The selectors.
Oh, my word. Yeah, who knows about that? He also says, Nick, come to MCG Boxing Day Ashes test. You'll definitely get tickets. It holds 95,000. I'm already dreading the 10.5, 11-hour flight across the pond, if you will. I don't know how I would do, what is that, 20 hours to Australia?
Well, it is a long flight from America.
I mean, people do it, right? I just don't know how they do it. I hate flying to Florida. And from where I'm at, it's 4 hours there and 5.5 back. Go figure that with the wind and everything. I hate that 5.5 hour flight. I want to shoot myself. Not really, but you guys get what I'm saying. So, I mean, 19 hours? Cricket, it might be worth it. But that's a long flight.
Yeah, it's like flying from Sydney to Perth. Because Sydney's on the eastern side of Australia and then Perth's in the west. That's quite a long flight. That takes quite a few hours to fly across the country.
Here's a great question for the umpire in the house. You think in situations where one team has exhausted all their reviews,
Yeah.
Then for a close 50-50 decision, do you think the umpires give benefit of the doubt to the team with 0 reviews? We talked about this a little bit.
Yeah. Well, really, that shouldn't come into it, because number one, the teams who are asking for reviews should really think wisely before they challenge, because players, just go upstairs just for the heat of the moment or whatever. But you got to think about why the umpire gave that out or not out. So we've seen teams not really think like an umpire there. I think it does have a little bit of a role to play, maybe, knowing that, okay, the umpire can give a decision that he feels like, okay, it's out, and it's probably not out if it was reviewed, but the team doesn't have any reviews left, so they can't challenge that. So it's definitely in the back of your mind as an umpire, but you shouldn't be thinking about that, really. You just should think about what you see and then give your decision based on what you saw, and you go from there. But it's definitely a factor when it comes to, teams wasting reviews early on, because, it may be crucial if the test match or the match you're playing, whatever format, gets close. But it definitely does have some sort of a factor, I think, if teams don't have a review left. Does probably weigh on the umpire's decision-making a little bit there.
It definitely shouldn't. I mean, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You want to use them all? Oh, well, don't use them all. Come on, people. Krishna says, Nick, during the first session, there was an appeal for LBW by India. Umpire denied and went umpire's call. Kohli said to Menon, you would have given me out on that, right? And Menon raised his finger. Of course he would. Menon hates Team India. I don't know why.
Yeah.
We're going to find out that it's like Buckner with the Menon suit, like a little Mission Impossible mask or whatever. We're going to find out at the end of the thing and say, gotcha. Absolutely, he would. He hates himself from Kohli. That's funny, like Kohli asked him that question, though. How do you know that, Krishna? Like, how did those stories get out? The first session today? I
did see him did raise his finger, and he had a bit of a chuckle. Umpire Niton Medon. So, yeah, just probably some words that he said there. So,
Mr. Guno, like that name, said, I've done it. Australia to London and Australia to LA. Not a long flight if you sleep most of the time. See, and that's part of it. I've never done it. Never gone more than 5.5 hours. Never. And those flights are killer. One thing I'm excited about is I think, since it's like 10.5, 11 hours, I think I actually get like one of those crappy airline meals. So that might be exciting. I haven't had one of those since I was a kid, and they used to have that on every flight. So, that's something to look forward to. Some, some stomach pain and whatnot. Get out the Pepto-Bismol. But definitely, I can't sleep on the plane. I just can't do it. I've tried, and I paid a little extra for some more comfortable seats. It's not like those like crazy like hotels you see in the airplane that they have.
Yeah.
It's not that. Yeah. That like where you literally have like your bed and you have your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever, her bed right next to you, and you have like the cubicle. It's not that. That would be crazy. But it's a little. It's like $9 million more for 2 more inches of space, and it's gonna be worth every penny. It'll be interesting to see the individual stats for this series. I have a feeling Australia will have a few in the top run scores, even though they lost. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely Kawach is at the top of the list for that.
Ian says Axar was the difference in this series. Ooh, I would say Jadeja early on, but Axar definitely played his role.
No, he played some good innings, and even though he didn't take a lot of wickets, but his innings with the bat, especially the second test and the first test, were crucial. So, yeah, he had a pretty good series.
It's already on Twitter. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my goodness. Axar won't get man of the series, but he should actually get it for his batting. Was the most assured batter throughout the series, and his knocks in the first and second test secured India his win. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have a look at the stats there a little bit myself. I'm gonna give Jack a good question. He's gonna take over the mic as I'm looking at some stats. You'll see my dumb look on my face, but I'm curious how accurate that is. I know I could probably go to some site that's already got it for me, but I like doing the work sometimes. I like math. Christian has already done. Spoiler alert. Kawaja, highest scorer, second Kohli, third Rohit, fourth maybe XR. This test is boring.
Yeah.
There you go. What do you think about that? Answer that question. You think it's boring?
Yeah, probably that's probably the right assumption. It's been a very monotonous, sort of drab sort of test match. The pitch hasn't really broken up much. Both teams scored over 400 plus. It's hasn't been a surface that has been like the other surfaces, which is a bit of a shame to win the series on, but we can't control the pitches and how they're prepared. So the players have just got to play on the pitches and find some ways to get wickets. But yeah, it's been a little bit energy sapping to watch, and probably for the players to play as well. But Australia doing a good job in the second session as they're trying to bat out for a draw here, and doing quite well. It's a good partnership between Head and Labuschagne. And pretty much
they're driving me nuts.
Well, they're doing what they need to do, and that's just to bat and bat. That's all Australia need to do. They can't really gain much from this situation. All they can do is just bat and bat time and draw out the test match, and that's what they're doing, and they're doing that well. So the energy probably a little bit sapping for India. They were up and about earlier when they got that wicket of Kuhneman, but since then it's just been a little bit down on the enthusiasm as we get closer and closer towards the end. So once we get to
jeez.
Yeah, well, once we get to, I think I heard on the commentary, around about 3:30 local time, that's where we can call the game off. Once we get to the last hour of the match, and both teams can shake hands and say, "Yep, nothing's going to happen here, so going to be a draw." So that's the cutoff time, but we're still a long way away from that when we get to that point. But you would think both teams would probably shake hands straight away when that comes around.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now with the last two matches. I mean, Travis Head, he's been consistent, if nothing else. 76, 32, 49, and it is 9, which isn't the best, but still.
Yes, and he didn't play the first test, Travis Head. So He's come in for the next 3, and that's where Australia went a little bit wrong as well in terms of selection. They should have really selected Travis Head there because he's been quite good in the last 3 test matches, and he's batting well here right now, 76. He's closing in on another test century, and I think for him to get one in India is something that you want to tick off the list, just like Cameron Green in the first innings, and that was good to see Cameron Green finally get that century, and so happy for him to get that century. I know Gabe's questioned Cameron Green sometimes in terms of not really showing up in both bat and ball, but I think Gabe will be happy to see him finally get a century in the first innings, and it won't last long. Well, yeah, it was good to see him get that century, Cameron Green, and hopefully many more. But usually when you bat down the order, you usually don't get opportunities to get centuries all that often, even if the team gets off to a good start. But if the team's in a bit of trouble, which Australia lost a few wickets when he came in, so he was able to bat time with Kawaja and put on that partnership of 200, which was splendid for Australia's point of view. But good, some positives for Australia to end this series on. And, you have to say, at the end of the day, India, they played better in those first 2 test matches, and they deserve to win the series, I suppose. And Australia, plenty of learnings going into the next tour in a few years' time. What they can do better and improve on. But, Australia lead by 32 runs, 1 for 123. Excellent partnership of over 100 between Head and Labuschagne. And you would think that they're slowly getting Australia to safer waters now. India haven't taken a wicket in the session, so we shall see what happens as we get closer and closer to the end of this test match. To answer your question, John, no, I don't think he will be Warner's replacement as opener. He'll definitely bat down the order in the Ashes. They'll probably get Renshaw or someone to open the batting with Khawaja if David Warner does decide to retire. He hasn't said anything about that, but I don't think Travis Head's been groomed as David Warner's potential opening. As David Warner's replacement as opener. Australia prefer to have Travis Head down the order because he can be aggressive and change games like that. So I think Travis Head will resume his position at number 5, but he's done okay in the opening spot in this series, filling in for Warner, who had to go home with that elbow injury and a bit of concussion, which he got that in the second test. So to answer your question there, John, no, I don't think he will be the potential test opener. They'll look at somewhere else, maybe Renshaw and maybe Pekoski, but I know he's had some setbacks.
Pekoski.
Yeah, well, he's starting to come back to cricket. He's playing for Victoria again in second 11 cricket, so he's coming back. But he's had a difficult time with concussions. And he played in that Sydney test in the last series that Australia and India played in Australia. And did okay, scored a 50, but then got injured, and then he's had concussions and those battles. Then you got Matt Renshaw, who has done okay in the last few years and has struggled a little bit in this series. Be interesting to see what Australia do in terms, do they select Warner and keep the faith, or they decide to move on? That will be the question for the selectors to answer when they go to England. And he didn't have a good series last series, David Warner. Stuart Broad caused him all sorts of problems from bowling right arm around the wicket, angling the ball in, just nipping it away off the surface a bit. And that got him out so many times. It wasn't funny after the first couple of times.
It's always funny.
Well, if you're an England supporter, it would be. But if you're an Australian supporter, it's quite frustrating to see that happen on a consistent basis, because that's going to happen as a batter and you've got to make an adjustment to that. Anyway, but I'm not a selector, so that's up to the selectors to make those decisions. That's their job. Not many people like the selectors. So.
Yes, I mean it's interesting with this match because you had, I don't know, with the run score I'm looking at right now, and just I didn't put down like the under 10 scores, okay? So I might be off by some runs. But it looks like Kohli's got the most runs. That 186 did not hurt to 297. He had a 44 in there. He had a couple of 20s. He had a 13 and a 12. Axar, 79, 74, 84. He's only 30 runs behind Kohli. Again, give or take maybe 20 runs. So I didn't count everything. Ooh, nice ball there. Khawaja, he had the 180. He had the 60 and the 81. But other than that, we're talking like a 1, a 5, a 0.
Yeah.
Right? He was feast or famine. So he's not your top run scorer. He's got, for my math, no. My math is off. My math is horrible. No, he probably is the top scorer, 243. Yeah, he is the top scorer. My bad. I forgot to carry the 1. So 327. But that's with having, some monster innings and having some not so great innings. So you can't just look at the total run scored as who was the best one out there.
Yeah. And I think the numbers can be a little bit misleading after this test match, given the surface in this last test. So if you take away this test match, it's a different result in terms of, their series overall. So this test is a bit of an outliner because of the nature of the pitch being so good for batting. So if you take that out, the numbers are very different.
Someone's asking about my thoughts on Not To. This is a little Oscar talk. It's a song from RRR. Super excited about it. I have not watched the Oscars yet. I do watch them. I haven't gotten around to it yet tonight. Too much going on. But super exciting. I think Triple R deserved other nominations, to be honest with you, but they were able to win in that original song category. And I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I want to say that Slumdog Millionaire also won not just Best Picture, but a song Oscar as well. But I want to see India's movies, because they have so many great films, get selected as one of the 5 foreign film nominees. I mean, let's get that going on. But having that song win is fantastic. And I'm excited to see the performance at the Oscars, because they're better a bit of performance for that. They're better a bit, because that's part of the amazement of that song is the performance. Yes, Axar's partnerships were absolutely vital, 100%. I would argue too, and I keep going back to Kohli, I would argue that his knock in the first innings was absolutely essential from this match not being a loss, because he goes in there batting third, and he sticks around for a very, very long time. And at one point, it was him and Pujara, which were just driving Australia nuts, and he was still able to outlast. So his knock there was very essential, but Axar had 3 of them, so it's hard to argue with that. Khawaja had 3 of them that were very, very essential. And remember, they only won the one match. This will be a draw, so very impressive. Ashwood's been taking wickets left and right. As far as a man of the series, I mean, I think it's tough to call that, right? If Axar had maybe 5 or 6 more wickets, then you might say man of the series, definitely. Yeah. But I think it's going to be tough, because Rohit had that big knock in the first match, but not a big knock since. Kohli had one in this match, but it's going to be a draw. Who would you give the man of the series to?
I think I'll give it to Axar Patel, because because he played some very good knocks, and he had some very good partnerships in this series, which were crucial, especially in the first couple of tests. So even though he didn't take the wickets, but he's been India's most assured batter in this series. The top order struggled a bit. You take away what they did in this test match, their numbers were very ordinary. But for India's tailenders and Ashwin, Jadeja, and Patel, they pretty much got India out of a pickle on those difficult occasions. And that was the difference between them winning the series and not losing it. So I would probably give it to Patel just because of that. And his numbers in the series have been very good with the bat, even though he hasn't taken the wickets, because he hasn't really had to bowl much. It's been Jadeja and Ashwin who've been taking the wickets. And then some people may say Jadeja because he's had a good series as well. So at the end of the day, it's up to the people who are in charge of the voting or whatever they do for that award for the player of the series. So we can only suggest our candidates, but I will probably say Patel just because of that. But many people have different views on that, which is fine.
And I was impressed, because I was making fun of him earlier. I was impressed with Nick Lyon's little knock. He had a 40-plus runs. That was impressive.
Yes, that was a handy partnership with Todd Murphy, yes. They added 70 for the right wicket.
That was very, very frustrating for the India fans. But he's got the second most wickets taken. Nathan Lyon at 22. Ashwin's got 25. So, I mean, but again, you're talking about the subcontinent. Like, how much do you weigh that? I don't think there's one clear-cut winner. If Jadeja would have had even one half century, then maybe you would have given it to him. But he didn't, as far as I can remember. But Axar just got 2 wickets.
He did. Jadeja got a half century in the first test.
Did he?
Yeah.
Must not have written that one down.
Yeah, he did. Maybe someone in the chat could tell us what he scored, but yes, he did. Which seems like a long time ago, the first test match, which happened in February, and now it's March. So it's been a long tour.
So if he did get that, half century, then maybe you give him.
And then he got 7 wickets in Delhi in the second test. So you could give it to him for an all-round performance, which was good from Jadeja, and he's been very good since he's come back from his injury problems and concerns.
Phenomenal.
And he's such a dangerous player, especially in the field. You can't take him on for a quick single, otherwise he's going to throw down the stumps, and you've got to be caught short. We saw that yesterday. Peter Hanscom ran out Umesh Yadav. from the outfield, and he was way out of his ground. So Australia picking up a cheap wicket there.
Going back to the Oscars real quick, I'll just say it again. I am an Oscar geek, so I have not watched it, so please don't spoil it for me. That's cool, Suman. That Elephant Whisperer won the documentary from India. I know you're excited about that. That is cool, but I haven't watched it yet, and I do plan on watching it. But I want to get to Krishna's comment. Yes, Slumdog was an Indian, but I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that A.R. Rahman won the Oscar, and he is Indian. So that's what I was learning to as far as the music, because that was what I was talking about, was the music itself. The movie won Best Picture, but it won the song for A.R. Rahman. Could be wrong about that. That was a Danny Boyle film, British filmmaker. But nonetheless, I mean, it's we need to get some films from India nominated. Absolutely. That way, Gandhi won the Best Film Oscar. Yeah. That was a Richard Attenborough directed film, which is oddly enough, because for any film fans, the director of Gandhi, which starred Ben Kingsley, which won Best Picture, that was directed by the billionaire in Jurassic Park, the old man. Not only is he just an actor, but he also
him.
director.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So he won, I think he won Best Director as well.
Isn't he David Attenborough's brother or something? Or?
It would make sense because his name's Richard Attenborough.
Yeah. I always thought that too. Are they brothers? I think they are, I think.
Remind me, I'm drawing a blank. Who's David Attenborough?
You know, the environmentalist, you know, the guy who does the documentaries and gives the commentary about the animals in the wild and all that.
Richard Attenborough, I'm Googling right now, was David's elder brother.
There you go. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
And no, I don't know him as far as that.
He's done many programs on wildlife.
I've heard the name, but didn't know who he was.
So, this talk about films, Nick, it's reminding how everyone is saying this pitch is a road. It's just reminding me of that line in Back to the Future when Doc says, "Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads." And and on Saturday, they showed number 3 of Back to the Future, which I think is probably, I don't know, out of the 3, I think that's probably my second favorite of the 3, I think.
Yeah, because the first one's got to be the favorite. I mean, if anyone says the first one's not the
second one was good.
Yes, I would agree with you.
For the older Mac, but the third one was even the Wild West. Nobody calls me Mad Dog.
Yeah.
What's your name?
I absolutely agree. And as a kid, I absolutely loved the third one.
What's your name?
Clint Eastwood. What kind of a stupid name is that?
What name is that? When he takes on Tannen in the gunfight, and he couldn't believe it.
What's the shoes that he's wearing?
Nike.
No, I think like British Knights or something. What he's wearing something. He's like, what kind of shoe? What is that kind of name? Good stuff.
Oh yeah,
absolutely,
pretty good.
Yeah, they're talking about the intent of the players on both sides. Not a lot of intent since day one. When Smith and Martin started blocking on day one, I knew there wasn't enough intent to try and win the test. What's the strategy there to play to not win? I don't like that.
Well, what we mean by intent is you want to be positive and look to win the game and do that.
Absolutely.
I think with Australia, when they batted, in terms of their strategy on the first 2 days, I think the strategy was for Australia only to bat once in this test match. But if they wanted to do that, they had to score a bit quicker and get over 550, 600 to do that and bat India out of the game. So I can understand why they did that. They could have upped the ante a little bit. When Cameron Green came in and joined Khawaja towards the end of day one, that's where the intent really improved from Australia. He really got things motoring along at that stage. But yeah, this is the thing. If England were playing this test match, they would have scored a lot quicker than Australia, obviously. That's what they did in Pakistan. That's how they won over there. Because they scored 500 runs in a day, which is unheard of. So with Australia that was their strategy, and they could have been a little bit more proactive. But really, I think both teams knew that this pitch was pretty good for batting, and it wouldn't break up as much as the last few pitches. And probably the time and probably the chances of bowling the side out twice were probably looking slim. So you can look at that at hindsight if they wanted to improve their scoring rate, Australia. But, they thought bat first, bat for 2 days, try and bat once. That didn't turn out to be the case, but that was their strategy. So you just got to go in, well, what's your strategy, and try and execute that, I suppose. But it hasn't really worked out.
I appreciate that. I don't know. I still say you play to win the game, but I get it, I guess. And I'm sure, like, for Australia, not that they just didn't care, but once they got that win and they assured themselves, and they would have assured themselves, they would have Sri Lanka losing, they assured themselves WTC, I'm sure that took a lot of the pressure off, where it's like, let's just go out and have fun and, I don't know, not injure ourselves. I have no idea. The crazy thing, getting back to the Back to the Future real quick. The crazy thing about Back to the Future, where's it at? So, as a trilogy, these movies made so much money. I'm looking at the collective. Here we go. The collective budget for all three films, and of course, this is the 1980s. $99 million was a budget to produce all three films. And they made, in the 1880s, they made almost $1 billion at the box office. That's 10 times their budget. That is just astronomical.
But it never gets old, doesn't it? Even if you watch it today, it never gets old when you see it for the 1,000th time or something like that. It's always a great bunch of films to watch. And I've got the DVD set, so I tend to watch them from time to time. And you remember those favorite lines that you pick up.
Absolutely. I'm doing some kind of back treatment massage to Coley. There's another boundary there from Labuschagne. He wants to get to his half century. And Tom, we can't make you happy today. First, you're saying it's a boring test match, and now you don't want us talking about movies. I mean, you got to make up your mind, my friend. Got to make up your mind.
It's okay to talk about other stuff.
Absolutely.
Apart from cricket at times.
Forget American box office films. Small Aussie films are far better. All right. So since you opened the door, Ian, first of all, I can't argue with you because I have not seen these small Aussie films, okay? Besides, is it Mad Max, originally an Australia film?
Yes. Yeah. That's Australian.
And I believe at one time it had the record of the largest multiplier box office than compared to the budget. Like the budget was like 400,000 and it made, I can't remember, hundreds of millions of dollars. Think about that. That's just crazy. But anyways, I haven't seen those. But to say that they're far better is just so opinion biased. It's just, you can't take that statement seriously. That's what I got to say about that. It's like that Napoleon Dynamite line. Have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Oh, I've seen a bit of it.
It's so stupid. It's awesome. There's a part where, Uncle Rico, the guy with the football who's filming himself throw a football, he's like 40 years old and he's living in high school. And he's like, you want to see my movie of him just throwing a football, which is such a stupid movie. And so Napoleon says a line, this is the stupidest movie ever made. And then his brother responds with, how could you ever know that, Napoleon? Suggesting that you would have to know every movie that ever existed to be able to make that statement. That's kind of what I think about this comment right here. Sorry. How could you know that? And by what metric? Nick, did you enjoy the video I shared with you on Instagram about Indian cricket team dominance at home? Yes. And then you jinxed them, my friend. You jinxed them. It's your fault. Suman's fault. Silver Owl says, what is the Aussie currency exchange rate? I have no idea. We'll have to bring in our finance guy. Do we have a finance guy in the books? I don't think so.
Well, we can Google it, search it up, see what the exchange rate is. I should probably know because I am from Australia, but I'm not an expert in the finance sort of numbers and figures and all that stuff. So, well, Travis Head's on 86.
I want to see him get that century.
Well, he better not get a single because 87's the unlucky number in Australian cricket. Nick, obviously, it's 13 short of a century. So if you can get a couple and get past that, that would be good. If you believe in those superstitions, which many cricketers do. And Travis Head defends comfortably again on the front foot.
I think I have actually heard of that movie. I don't know what I was watching, probably some YouTube video on Ben Mendelsohn, but I saw him, a little clip of him super, super young, and I'm assuming it's probably from that film. But he was probably in also some, who knows, some TV shows in Australia, whatever as well. But that'd be interesting. He was in like a bunch of movies here in the States for like a few years, and then I haven't seen him since. But I enjoy him as an actor. He's a very good actor. So Raul says, when talk about movie box office collections, they should adjust for inflation. $1 50 years ago was worth a lot more than $1 today. Yes, and there's a guy named Dan Merle who's on YouTube. He's an American, and he's obsessed with not obsessed. He really likes talking about box office every single weekend. And he also includes the worldwide box office, not just the United States. And for some reason, because I'm a huge movie fan, ever since I was a kid, I was always interested in box office numbers. I don't know why. That's not my money, but I've always been interested. How much money does this movie make? How much money did it cost for this movie to be made? How much gross did it make? How much money did they actually? So when it says that, let's say the Dibbly Dobbly film made $100 million at the box office, I was always interested. Well, how much does Dibbly Dobbly Productions get from that? Because they don't get all 100 million. The theaters take their percentage, right? And so I've always been obsessed with that kind of stuff. And Dan Merle, he has a good recap every single week talking about that. And he adjusts everything for inflation when he's talking about this or that. So Creed 3 just came out. I'm a huge Rocky fan. I haven't seen Creed 3. I'm going to watch it this week. And he was showing Creed 3 and its opening weekend box office numbers compared to all the other Rocky movies. But then he also adjusted for inflation and shows how the other Rocky movies for inflation did more. So that's what I'm trying to say. So Raul, check out his channel because you'll be able to see the adjust for inflation numbers there. Yes, you did, Suman. Come on, man. Tom Curran coming in with the hate on phase 4. It hasn't been too pretty. I did watch Quantum Mania with the kids 2 days ago, and we enjoyed that movie. It wasn't, the best ever. It was an instant classic, but I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. It was entertaining enough. Do you get into the Marvel films, Jack?
I've watched some of them. I watched Spider-Man, like the original ones, like back in the day, but it never really interested me.
So you haven't seen any of the recent ones, like Iron Man?
No, I did a little bit on TV. I just flicking through the channels. I prefer, like Back to the Future or Happy Gilmore, those types of movies. Police Academy, Clint Eastwood, the Dirty Harry movies. They're pretty good. I like them. Make my day, punk. that was on the other weekend on Sunday. So I love watching those types of movies that are not really the superhero type movies. I don't really get into those. But the other movies like cop movies and all that, Blues Brothers, all those movies I like. Because they're just funny and I just like that sort of thing. So whatever.
Have you seen Beverly Hills Cop?
Oh, yeah. No, all three of them, yeah. That's pretty good. Axel Foley.
Did you know that it was originally supposed to be Sylvester Stallone in that role?
Really? And then they
but
went with
they
Eddie Murphy?
couldn't. He wanted to change the script and write it himself, and they wouldn't allow him.
Ah.
So they went from Sylvester Stallone to he was well known, but not in the movie scene. Comedian Eddie Murphy, and he obviously
I did
did
like
many.
when Coming to America, I like that, but I haven't seen number 2 yet. I've been meaning to watch it, but I haven't watched it yet.
You know, oddly enough, I've never seen Coming to America, and that's like one of
You
those
haven't?
film
Oh,
classics.
it's pretty
No.
good. It's a pretty good movie.
Another funny movie is Trading Places. It's like a small time funny movie with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy,
Oh yeah, I have heard of that.
where Dan Aykroyd's like the uppity businessman, and Eddie Murphy is like I don't know if he's actually homeless, but he's definitely like a hustler on the side. And so he goes into this office and he's on like his wagon because he has no legs, and he's begging for money. And someone picks him up by his arms and his legs dangle. It's a miracle. It's hilarious.
I also like the
Fight Club
Liam
is
Pooh
great.
movies as well. You know, with Chevy Chase, I like them. Yeah,
Yep.
especially the Christmas Vacation one's my favorite.
Yeah.
I always watch that every Christmas. It's always on every Christmas on TV.
Yep.
National
Gotta watch
Lampoon.
it. There's
And the other
a hidden
movies as well.
gem. The Vegas Vacation to me is like the one that no one ever talks about, but that one's absolutely hilarious too.
Yeah, no, I've seen that one as well. just gambling every day while he's there, and he's broke. And then they win that ticket, and that old guy sitting in the chair, wasn't he faking or something like that? He's like,
it was so weird because then the paramedics came and they said he's dead.
Yeah.
But he like to wink to him or something like that. It was so weird.
Well, they're in a bit of a trouble there. You know, Clark's just spent all the money.
Oh my gosh, he's gone insane. I love that scene where he's actually winning for once, and then cousin Eddie walks up and he starts losing, and he tells him, he's like, Eddie, have you ever been told that you're bad luck? And he's like, those are my mom's dying words, Clark. So messed up. Drinks break. Australia's at 150. Travis Head is at 87. Marnus has got his half century as we're talking about movies.
Yes,
here.
He did.
Congratulations, Marnus.
It's good to see Marnus get that century.
And I think it's safe to say he has earned that half century. No luck on his side this time.
It's his first.
Earned every step of it.
I think it's his first half century of the series. He hasn't really batted well, Marnus, but it's good to see him finally get some runs in the second innings. You ever seen that movie Caddyshack, Nick? You ever seen that movie Caddyshack?
You know what? I've only seen some of it, and I think it's because it's such a popular movie that I don't want to watch it and not like it. You know?
Yeah, I understand that.
But I have not seen all the way.
I know they made number 2. I don't think number 2 was as good as number 1.
I heard it was horrible. But who knows? Maybe it's fantastic.
Number 1's better than number 2. I think they missed the mark a little bit there, but
that reminded me of it. Oh, I have seen Airplane, and that movie is pretty fun.
Oh yes, I have seen that as well. I've also seen Naked Gun as well. Those movies.
Yeah,
those are quite funny.
He's ridiculous.
Frank Drebin.
Yeah.
And it had O.J. Simpson in there, didn't it? He was in that movie, wasn't he? Yeah.
I think he was in the second and the third one.
Yeah, he was in there.
Right before the white Bronco got on TV and his life changed forever. But he's out and about and he's doing his thing. Labuschagne's at strike. Umesh Yadav is bowling as they're taking a little break right here. Jadeja is literally taking a break, sitting on the floor.
Yeah, well, it is a hot day. It's been a hot day for the last few days in Ahmedabad. A lot of players getting drinks and getting fluids, and it's just been that sort of test match, really, where it's just been energy sapping. Nothing really happening off the pitch. And I did say in my community page as a poll, Nick, I did say, should we go back to uncovered pitches? Make it more interesting. That's what they did back in the old days.
I mean, Who's going to try it first?
Well, cricket back in the old days were played on uncovered pitches, and it was left up to the elements. I just suggested that as a bit of a talking point, really. But
yeah,
I don't think they'll do it now, because back then they didn't really care about player safety, whereas now they do, and they have covers. But it'd be interesting to give it a trial to see how the players will go, like the older players did back in those days, because you didn't want to get caught on a sticky wicket or a wet dog, as they say, in those days with uncovered pitches, because you always batted first. So that will be something to consider, but I don't think that will happen. I just threw it out there as a bit of a talking point for people just to have a discussion on. It was Hans Solo, because I streamed. I was meant to speak to someone yesterday for our historical series, but he was a bit under the weather, so we had to reschedule that for next week or this week. So I had everything set up, so I streamed the last session. It was Hans Solo who actually said that in the chat. He said we should bring back uncovered pitches or something. And I said, that's not a bad point that you raise.
He's out of control.
No, he's quite well behaved on my streams, Nick. Not so much, yeah, but
he it must be Gabe that brings it out of him.
Yeah, probably. But it was him that raised that point yesterday, which I thought was an interesting discussion point to raise. But Australia going along nicely, and you would think now more time taken out of this game, and it is slowly but surely entering its final stages. So it'll be interesting to see what the teams do after the tea break, whether they continue or just play on for a little bit and say, you know what, we're pretty much going to call it quits. Yeah,
we don't care anymore, is what they're going to say.
Well, you can't really call off the match before the cutoff time. So
says who?
Well, it's the playing conditions, the laws.
Oh, the laws! I forgot.
Well, me and Neil had an interesting discussion on that, actually, how the laws were written and stuff like that. But yeah, well, it's in the playing conditions.
I just think like it would be interesting if the players were just like, you know what, we don't want to play anymore. And
well,
on both sides, and the umpire is like, yeah, we don't want to umpire anymore. Let's just call it.
If it was me out there, I'd be saying, well, you know, we could go back to the dressing room for a couple of refreshments. You know, do we really want to be out here?
Get them some
motivation
to make it more interesting.
Hmm.
Mr. Guno has some movies here. He Died with a Falafel in His Hand, Latana, Two Hands, Shine are all great movies. Shine, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was an Oscar-nominated film, if I'm not mistaken. Let me know if that's the same one or that's just a different one. Came out in, I think, 96 or 95. And no, I don't want to watch the sickest movie ever. Bad Boy Bubby. One movie that I absolutely hated was Freddy Got Fingered. That was just a weird, stupid movie with one funny part. And if it's the sickest movie ever, I'm sure it's worse than that. I think actually the grossest movie ever, I'm not sure what exactly you mean by sick. Maybe you mean like really cool. I don't know. But movies where you have cannibals eating people, no interest in that. I have not watched the old stop motion Captain America cartoons from the 1960s. That would be. I saw the 1980s Captain America film. That was pretty bad. We were renting this house. It was basically an Airbnb, but it was friends of ours that we knew owned it in Florida, and they had in their library a 1980s Captain America film. It was so bad. Saw that nonsense.
Not as good as the recent ones.
No, not even close. You're 100% right. Uncovered pitches would improve the battle between bat and ball. Yeah, but then you would have, well, first of all, Gabe would absolutely lose his mind. Absolutely lose his mind. Because if the natural weather conditions drastically change that pitch overnight, you know what he's going to say. Collusion, match fixing.
Yeah.
You know, how much money did you pay for the ninjas to go out there and mess up the track or whatever? And
yeah.
I think he would not be the only one. So I think nowadays there's no way you get away with that.
No, but that's what they did back in the old days. And test matches were very different to what they are today. And we're talking 1800s, 1900s, where pitches were uncovered, and the pitches were very bad back then. They had bits of brick and glass and stuff. They weren't really good as they are today. We are talking 1800s and 1900s.
They should have used styrofoam. That would have made it interesting.
But it creates a very, very different game to what it is today. And Travis Head is gone. Travis Head is bowled for 90. India celebrates the wicket. And 10 runs short of the century. And Patel's got
Axar gets his third wicket. That might get him a little closer to a man of the series, possibly. Who knows? Doesn't really matter at this point.
This one.
Yeah, that's true. It's 50th
in
test
between
wicket.
bat and pad through the gate, knocking the off stump over. But Travis Head's done his job. And you would think the game is fairly safe right now for Australia. Excellent partnership with Labuschagne. He's got to go for 90, but it's been a good block.
Here comes the batting collapse. Well, wickets are going to fall.
I don't think they will, Nick.
That's all that's needed right there.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say, I want to talk about something a little negative here. I'm curious, what is the chat thing? We appreciate all 19 that's still with us. Talk about movies. About this match, about this series, I have not been happy with Bharat, the wicketkeeper, the debut. Or as my friend would say, the debut. Okay. I have not been too happy with him at all. He looks like he's never played wicketkeeper in his entire life in some of these plays. There was a situation not too long ago on the stream, I'm watching it, where he can't get it, gets past him. Yeah. And then the fielder gets it, they throw it to him. He can't catch it when it's thrown to him. It gets past him again. I mean, this guy looks absolutely lost out there. There was a situation where Coley's like yelling at him because he almost got him run out in yesterday's day of play. He has not been able to. He got close to 40 runs in one of his knocks. That was great, but he hasn't been able to sustain too much with the bat. I would have preferred a more seasoned wicketkeeper, even if the guy scored 0 runs. I personally have not been loving it. Let me know, what do you think about his debut?
Well, they did speak about that, especially in this test match. I think Dinesh Karthik spoke about his keeping at length. I was listening to it in the first session. He's got some areas to work on. He's conceded some buys, but keeping in these conditions with the ball's turning and that, you would say that Alex Carey, out of the 2 keepers, is probably the best keeper out of the 2 this series, because Alex Carey's kept really well. And Bharat,
you would say
he has. Carey's kept really well. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And Bharat, at times, he dropped a catch in this test match. He dropped a catch in the first session. Sitter
of all sitters.
And that wasn't good on this sort of surface. You can't be doing that. So, he hasn't been good in some areas. But, he was called up. He got the opportunity and, he was given the chance. And because of Pant, obviously, and we wish him all the best in his recovery. But when Pant does come back and recover, he will come back and resume the keeper role. But
I'm just saying, you got Sanju Samson, you got Saha, you got. I mean, I would even take KL Rahul at this point. I'm not gonna lie. It's not very good. You got DK, right? Who's there talking in the booth right there. Hey, can you come down from the booth and get your pads on? We need you. It's been pretty ugly. Ooh, Suman says, "Come on, Jack. They've both been pretty bad this series." Ooh, fighting
Well,
words. Ishin Kishin,
from
yeah.
what I saw from Kerry, he's done okay, Kerry. As it's not easy, as I mentioned, but that's your opinion. That's fine. It's just the way I've seen it in the series. You may see it differently. So, to be honest, I couldn't care less. To be honest, it's just the way I've seen it.
Compared to Barat, I think Alex Carey's going to the Hall of Fame after this series. Okay,
Well, not quite Hall of Fame, but
I'm saying it right now.
A lot of people have questions about Carey and his keeping over the years, well, over the journey since he's come into the Test side, and he's worked hard on it. He's improved on it, and I thought in this series he's done okay. Yeah, he's fumbled a few balls and haven't caught them cleanly a little bit, but there's some improvement there, which is good. And for Carey, it's his first tour to the subcontinent, in India especially. I thought he kept well in Pakistan and Sri Lanka in those series. So he's getting better and he's improving, which is good to see. So I just thought in this series he's done okay. A lot of people have said that as well, that he's kept okay from what they saw. So what I've seen from Carey, he hasn't had much of an impact with the bat, but with the gloves, he's taken those chances when needed to be taken. Those difficult catches, and he's taken them. So whereas Barat hasn't really quite done that. So people can have their own opinions. He was good or worse, but that's just the way I saw it.
And that is what we're going to go with, friends, ladies and gentlemen here. Yes, Manju, how you doing? Appreciate seeing you there. What is your starting 11 for Australia in the December final? I think he means WTC final, maybe?
Yeah, probably WTC. It's in June, so the 11 for that, well, it will be a typical 11 that Australia have for a test match in Australia. I think you will have Khawaja definitely there. Warner's a question mark, but he will be probably most likely be there. Then you have Labuschagne at 3, you have Smith, and then you have Travis Head, Green, Carey, you have Pat Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, and Lyon. I think that will be the 11 that they will have for that WTC final, and probably for the Ashes as well, for that first test at Edgbaston. For that first test, because the Ashes is the same as it was in 2019 in terms of the venues that they're playing at. So it's just a carbon copy of the last series. So I think that will be the 11 for for Australia in that WTC final, and probably for that first Ashes test. It's a pretty good 11. It's a strong 11, and why change that? But David Warner, a little bit of a question mark, whether he will be there or not. Some people are questioning that. He may retire, he may not. You may get someone else in to open, but that's up to the selectors to decide.
Head deserved 100. I don't know if someone deserves 100. He played well enough to possibly get 100, but got unlucky on that last ball there where it ricocheted at the back of his bat, went right to the bails. But Axar will take it. So much for camp play and stuff. Listen, with the Pakistan series, not too long ago, but was that last year? And with this one right here, they're adapting quite well. How did they do in the Sri Lanka Test series? Was it just 2 Test matches in Sri Lanka?
It was only 2 Test matches. They won the first by 10 wickets, and they lost the second one by an innings.
So they lost. I thought it was a draw. Okay.
So it was a draw series.
They've won in every single series in the subcontinent. So
they won in Pakistan. They won that 1-0 in the best of 3 on those pitches. They didn't win in Sri Lanka. They drew that series, which was not a bad result.
I mean, they won a match. That's what I meant. They won a match.
So they won a match in 3 of those series, at least.
Yeah.
So that's a positive for Australia. Obviously in the Test season 2, you'll see that in the next couple of episodes. They talk about Pakistan and Sri Lanka and about what happened there. But yeah, but they've won at least one game in the series, which has been good. A bit disappointing not to do well in this series, but nonetheless, it's some positives for Australia. As the series has progressed, they've gotten better slightly, and probably that hindered them a little bit, not preparing as much before the series. But that's just the way cricket is these days with the international calendar. You just can't fit some practice games in or anything like that. So that's just the way it's gone. But the last two test matches, especially the third test, was a big positive, winning that on that difficult surface. And then doing well here, even though we'll come to a draw, but that's not a bad result. 2-1, not bad. Same as the last tour in 2017. So that is some sort of a positive for Australia. But they got to take some learnings out of this and think about what can we do better for next time when we come back in 4 years' time. Because that series will be a 5-game series. It won't be 4 anymore, Nick. They'll be changing that to 5. And India and Australia,
they changed it after they played in India. I see how it is.
Yeah. No. So the next series they play from then on will be 5-game series. And Australia and India have played 5 test match series in the years. The first series they played against each other in 47-48 in Australia was a 5-game series. When they went to India in the early tours that they toured there were 5 games. 1969 was a 5-game series. 1959 was as well. And then it sort of changed to 4, and they've been there ever since. They're going back to that, so which is probably good, I suppose. Have an extra test onto the series. And really, Australia and England, India only play 5-game series these days, whereas the other nations, they either play 3 or 2, which is
nice
what it is,
there.
I suppose. And that was a very good shot from Marnus there through the covers.
Yeah. That was amazing.
He's seeing the ball nicely now. He's gotten used to the surface, and as I mentioned earlier, he's had a tough tour, Marnus, but it's just good to see him really get some runs here in this final test match. He missed out on the first innings, but him and Travis Head have done the job, really. They've only lost a wicket in this session, so we're getting closer and closer to Australia drawing this match, and India just starting to lose a little bit of energy, and probably the voice around the bat will be a little bit lower. Probably just resigning to the fact that we can't probably win this test match now. So, and Australia have done pretty well, and it'll be nice to see Steve Smith get some runs here if he can. He hasn't had a great series either.
No,
if he can get some runs in this little period in this session, as in the last session, then that'll be good for him, I suppose. Potentially could be his last tour to India.
Yeah, it's just turned into one of those matches, unfortunately. But I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I'm getting a little tired here, getting ready to move on. But I was excited to jump on here with Jack and talk about a little bit of cricket here. They just showed a few balls back or a few overs back. Virat, it wasn't an easy chance, but he had another chance right there, kind of redeem himself, wicketkeeper. I mean, it would be really, really tough to get those quick reflexes. But that's my my stance on that. They have a lot of options. They went younger. They gave him the entire series. I mean, Sky got one match, for crying out loud. And I get Sky's not a wicketkeeper, but man alive. But that's the way it is. Australia and India more likely are going to draw this match. If you're watching the entire match, I hope you enjoy yourself. I hope you get a chance to get a little refresh and a little stock up on the snacks to watch the rest. Jack, I appreciate you joining me here. Guys, girls, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out all those movies we were talking about. I'm sure they're all fantastic, even the ones I haven't seen yet. And Jack, any final words for the people here?
Well, the final words is that it won't last. Probably a little bit into the last session, I think it will be called off early because I think both teams would say that it's not really going to happen. So that's a shame. But it's been a interesting series between Australia and India this time around. And I think a 2-1 result is a fair reflection of how both teams have played. India played better in the first two, and then Australia did well to win in the third test, and the last test didn't quite get a result. It's looking that way, but I think that's a fair reflection. And but thank you, Nick, for having me on as always, and thanks everyone for giving us your comments and thoughts on this test match and on the game of cricket in general. It's been interesting hearing what you have to say on the game. And make sure you subscribe to Cricket for Americans, support Nick and Gabe and all the good work they do promoting cricket in the States. And if you want to check out my channel, you can if you want to. Click that subscribe button. We're nearly to 600 subscribers. We're only 5 away from that. So if you can help us out there, that would be much appreciated. But it's up to you. I'm not really going to force anyone. Check out the videos that we've done, the historical series. I talked to Neil from Lords and the MCC about the history of Lords and the MCC. You'll learn a lot about that. And we got some cool episodes coming up with some people within the history of the game talking about that. So you'll learn a lot. So check it out if you want to. But
yes, check out the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. We appreciate his support and their support and their continued coverage of the game, past, present, and future as well. And with all that being said, let's all hope that Smith goes down for a duck. That'd be great. But don't forget to like and subscribe. And everyone have a great day, evening, afternoon, whatever it is. We will see you next time. And yes, Jack, we'll see you at the WTC final, my friend.
Well, I probably won't be there in England, but I'll be there in spirit, probably.
Watching it. Until next time. Adios.
See ya.